Right guys, we are the best part of a day after Celtic 3, Rangers 0. I've not calmed down yet. I've barely slept. It's just an incredible time to be a Celtic fan. We've got Scott McDonald and Euan on. Euan, you're on for the first time with Scott McDonald. Guys, it was a remarkable evening, Scott, wasn't it?
It was an electric one. I'm still singing as well. Still singing the tunes. So it's been good here all day, I must say. It's been a very good day. Even though it's been wet and miserable, like a good old Glasgow day, it's still not dampened the McDonald household, that's for sure.
You were going mad on Twitter. You had several tweets going out. You were singing songs. I think Just Can't Get Enough with the wee ones. You had a tweet about phoning the police. Did you phone the police?
No, but I think someone surely had to in that first half. And I kid you not, I was on the phone to one of my mates, who's a big Celtic man as well, goes down to Celtic supporters clubs locally from Glasgow. Actually grew up, playing in the youth teams at Celtic. Matt Carr, goalkeeper. We were chatting, and as soon as the game started, I went, "This is going to be a big score." You know, you could just feel it because of the way Celtic started the game and the way that they started so negatively. I think that they were the downfall to their own detriment, really. You know, in terms of the way that they started the game for me, they came out so negatively and it just allowed Celtic to dominate. And from there, wow, what a first half, huh? There's so many things you can say about it, and to a man, which we'll talk about. There were just so many good performances, wasn't there? It was phenomenal. I suppose the only selfish thing from every Celtic fan was, okay, one thing being good, no goals, clean sheet, but wanted more. More that second half, didn't we? But, we can't complain. 3-0, you would have took that well before kickoff. So, back in the driving seat, lads.
Yeah, we've had a few games like that in the past. I remember a few probably just after you'd left the club, Scott, when we were 3-0 up after, maybe a half or 60 minutes, and you always want a few more goals scored, and it didn't quite happen. But I think you're right. I think we're being greedy. I think if you'd offered any Celtic fan 3-0, we would certainly have taken it. Euan, how's it going? How did you reflect on last night?
Oh man, I had to be scraped off the ceiling to start work today. Like I'm just the utter ecstasy of last night. I cannot get over it, man. And it's like what you said. I think Rangers started so negatively because they were just absolutely rattled by the atmosphere. It was just unbelievable. I think you tweeted about this last night, Hamish. I've never heard noise like that at Celtic Park either. It was honestly is indescribable. And I dare say any team coming to Celtic Park and facing us with that kind of environment is going to struggle, because it was something else. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the atmosphere last night was as good as I've ever heard at Celtic Park, and I've been going for the best part of 2 decades now. We got a few comments last night mentioning, several games, and the atmosphere has been incredible at Celtic Park before. Scott will have played in games when it was absolutely rocking. Man Sure. United, I remember the 1-1 draw. It was rocking that night. But for me last night, there was just something about it, whether it was the fact that we could go top of the league, whether it was the fact it was a derby game in the evening, whether it was just this bond the fans have with Ange and the players. There was something for me that just, and maybe it's recency bias, but there was something for me last night that just put it above the rest. I think, there's a bond between the supporters and these players at the moment that I've not seen at Celtic in a long time. And even under Brendan Rodgers, I think there's a greater bond right now. We're kind of all in this together, and I think it comes from having a decent bunch of players. Like, the players, they're great footballers, but they seem like genuinely good people as well. And I think they have a manager there as well, as Scott will know, that is a genuinely good person as well, and that makes a difference, doesn't it, Scott? Because the fans can relate to this team.
Yeah, they can, but I also think you missed a poignant point of, this is the first time that you've experienced losing a league in 10 years. So from that comes a collective togetherness, because it means so much more from where you've come from the beginning of this season. And it almost felt like the beginning of a whole brand new era last night. Finally, the buy-in was 100% complete for Ange. I can't even get it out. The togetherness was completely there. I think that's probably the reason as well. The hunger, the desire is there from the fans as well, because there's a worry that, at the beginning of this season, it's going to continue like it did last year. the disastrous season that was had and all the success that's been built up through this last 9 years, possibly some fans will take that for granted without question. But all of a sudden, that hunger, that desire from everyone that's involved at football clubs there again. Everyone wants one thing, and that's that title, which is great. It's fantastic to see. And that's why I think the atmosphere last night was as electric as it was.
And hunger is just so important in sport, isn't it? I mean, across the city, we saw they had the hunger to stop us winning the league last year, and arguably Celtic didn't have that hunger because, in my opinion, we had so many players left at the club who were already eyeing up their next move. This is a really hungry team. It was summed up for me in a couple of things last night. Callum McGregor playing for a start with a mask. This guy picked up a bad facial injury 11 days ago, I think, against Alloa. The reports there you can see were 4 to 6 weeks he was meant to be out, and there he is 11 days later playing in a derby. Dyson Maeda, travelling from Japan 33 hours after being on the pitch in Japan, he's on the pitch at Celtic Park playing in a derby. And comparing it to what's happening across the city, they make a big signing on deadline day. Where was he to be seen last night?
Incredible.
When the manager comes in, Van Bronckhorst, his first game at Hampden, could he manage a team? No, he's up in the stand. And for me, that just sums up the difference. Celtic have a desire this year that they don't across the city.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. I mean, it sort of harkens back to those program notes from, I think it might be in Tavernier, where it was about when the pressure's on, we find it a bit more difficult. You could tell that it was absolutely palpable last night. And it's not necessarily just about the ambitions and about the historical context, although those are obviously really important. But I think the man management Ange Postecoglou has brought to this team has been absolutely sensational. And it refers back to the earlier point you made about the characters in this team. In absolutely no time, there are 9 players that Ange signed in a certain lineup last night, which is ridiculous and it's on its face.
Yeah,
but it's like you said, it's a profile. It's the characters that he's bringing in, and in absolutely no time. I mean, I don't know how precisely long it takes to get a transfer through, but to get to identify talent and then identify the right personality to fit into this team, and to do it so many times, to have such a from having a really threadbare squad to have this cohesive unit in a matter of months, it's remarkable. And I'm not getting ahead of myself. Obviously, the title's not won yet. All that stuff. There's still a lot of football to be played. All those caveats apply. But on its face, it's a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, and there's so much more to come. Scott, what's the reaction been like in Australia? Is it big news?
Yeah, it's massive news. It's all over 6 o'clock news. Everyone's been tweeting about it all day. And as you can imagine, it's just all positive stuff coming out of Australia and a little bit of, ha, I told you so.
You love that, don't you? You love that.
Yes, precisely. And it's been happening a lot again today. That will shut up a few people that doubted him in the first place, this, that, and next. But look, like you said earlier there, Hamish, there is a real connection and a bond there now with Ange, and everyone loves what he's doing. And I think, we talk about players' characters, but they only embody what the leader of the group is, and how they manage. And I think that he puts an onus or an ownership on the players to have that will and desire to go through certain barriers. Now, okay, sometimes maybe pushed a little bit too far. We look at the Kyogo incident and maybe, but hey, he won as a League Cup. So, was it worth it? If you ask Kyogo, was it worth it? Of course he'll say it was worth it. So, but, Maeda, just coming off a plane and just going, yeah, no bother, I'll have half an hour.
We didn't even need time. We had the game tied up at halftime. We could have just said, just have a holiday.
But even the way he came on and he closed down, it was just their mentality and attitude. There's a lot to be said and a fascination for me with the Japanese mentality and how they do things, not just in football but in life. And they don't even blink an eye. If there's a mistake that happens in the game, you wouldn't. Their poker face is amazing. They just get on with it and go to the next thing. Hatate scores a wonderful second goal, doesn't move, just lifts his arms, and it's just totally different, isn't it? Incredible. But what technique and what a player he is. I mean, we could talk all day about him and just what he's brought in 3 games. It's just phenomenal. And I told you, I did say to you that it wouldn't take time for these guys to settle in, did I not?
Yep.
Because their class is a level above, and in Scottish football, they're going to find it, that they're going to just find it, easy for them. and I truly believe all of them will find their feet as well. I mean, that's a scary thought, isn't it? That some of the players that weren't playing last night as well. But to a man, that they were excellent, and Ange actually tactically this time was a spot on. He didn't do the things, and he learned from the first game, and we said that at the time. I think he'd learn that he went just for the rigid shape rather than the inner movements within, the team itself, with the inverted fullback and the 8 going higher and then leaving 1v1 situations at what never did that at Ibrox, And I think that was a huge mistake when they went there earlier in the season. And obviously at home you can be a little bit more exploring and have a go, but that's the way that I think Ange always wants to play. And I think he probably held back a little bit and for his first Old Firm game, and he's learned from that, and he's not going to do that again. And it was all systems blazing.
Yeah, Hatate, as Scott says, Euan, the scary thing is, and Ange touched on this after the game, he's not even fully found his feet yet. There's so much more to come from him. I mean, it's scary how good he could be.
He was absolutely fantastic last night. And he has been since he joined, as Scott says. And again, he's only 24 as well. And there's it feels like such an exciting signing. There's so much to come from him. He was just absolutely inspired last night. As Glasgow Derby debuts go, you'd have to rank it right up there in terms of the modern era for sure. And I think it might have, I think it was definitely you saying this the other day, who's going to stand out in the derby, who's going to make it, there was the Dembele derby, there was the Edouard derby, we got the Hatate derby last night.
And Scott, you were comparing him, I think, to Moravcik as well in terms of his first derby and getting a couple of goals in that 5-1 game.
It was just very reminiscent in terms of being a night game. I remember the game very, very well, being a younger, supporter at the time. Actually, Van Bronckhorst scored in that game too. He scored a free kick that night. I believe it was 5-1 in the end. Yeah, but it was an absolute tonkin that night. But Lubo, a little bit, obviously with social media and everything that we know now, you find out a little bit more about players, but no one knew anything about Lubo. Pretty much a little bit like Hatate coming, no one really knew. And all of a sudden he just went bang, bang, set it alight. The only thing I got wrong was probably the goal margin in the end, because I felt it was going to go on at half time and score a few more. But, like we said earlier, can't be too greedy. But it's really positive, and it's a real boost psychologically now for Celtic going into this last quarter of the season. And I'm really, really interested to see how Rangers react to this psychologically. I've always asked questions about their mentality, particularly now fans are back. We talked about that previously, and the pressure gauger. Now that they have to chase a couple of bad results since the winter break. Once again, they don't like those winter breaks. How are they going to react to this? Because they looked all over the place last night, and a few of their players extremely looked lost.
And Sunday, they play Hearts at home, and they could be 4 points behind going into that game if we take care of business at Fir Park. And Hearts, I've said it all along, are a good side, so that could be very interesting there. Euan, where does that Abada goal, the third goal last night, rank in terms of your moments supporting Celtic?
Oof. Yeah, you're going back now. It would take me literal years to put together a top 10 list because I'd have to change it so constantly, but it's got to be way up there. I mean, just the noise, hugging everyone within sight, everyone jumping up and down. I haven't experienced anything like it before. I'll admit, that was my first derby in person, just through various circumstances. So that was my first one in person, and I've never felt anything like that in the stands. It was just absolutely incredible. And as I said last time, I love you, Leo Abada. He is just his run. I know Barisic, completely ignored him, but you can't take away from that run. Just goes completely unmarked, finds himself in the perfect position, and all he has to do is tap it in. But it's the speed in that ball as well, the pressure of the situation, it's not take nothing away from the finish as well, but just sheer ecstasy, man. Just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You'll hear me say unbelievable a lot this video because
That should just be the title. Just unbelievable.
Why not?
We got a comment in on last night's stream from Jay saying Abada has been like a new signing since the restart. He is so direct now. He gets the ball and drives at the defence with such pace. They have to back up. Outstanding. Scott, he has been exceptional since we've returned in the 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, he struck fear in Barisic right from the beginning. A lot of the good play started down Rangers' right-hand side, Celtic's left. But then when the quick switch of play happened, it was Abada had acres and acres of space every time. That's where the real damage was done on the night, and rightly so. Barisic would have had nightmares. I don't think he would have slept last night. He had an absolute stinker, but that was because Abada was that good. And O'Reilly as well, which not even touched on O'Reilly. You talk about debuts. I mean, let's have a think about where he's come from, and to just come into a massive club at Celtic and play in an Old Firm derby and not be out of place. It's phenomenal. I mean, just again, another great pick from Ange. In terms of scouting and networking and bringing him in. Because you were worried about certain players not being available for this game, but you're looking at it now and you're going, where's others going to fit in here? Like, it's a great problem to have. But Abada on the night, look, really young and a confidence player without question. We've seen that at the beginning of the season, unbelievable. Took a little knock, I think, and then had a little bit of a spell out the team and then come back in, found his way in. And I think that's what happens when you're young. You're going to have spells that you're not going to be performing, but right, you'll take it. He's right at the top of his game. Yeah,
I mean, Matt O'Reilly, I just love the guy already. Did we see his Celtic TV interview after the game as well? I mean, some of the quotes in there, I've got them here. I can't compare that to anything I've ever been in. No chance. I can't actually hear my own voice right now, so that says enough. I'm actually struggling to put it into words. I think we've got the best fans in the world, honestly. After that night, I've never seen anything like it in my life. He tweeted as well. And the thing is, when I'm looking at those quotes, I believe him. Sometimes I think players say it and it's almost like, oh, greatest fans in the world. And it's almost as if the Celtic PR department, and this may be a bad accusation to cast, but it's almost as if they've kind of said, oh, go and say this because the fans will love that. But when he's saying that, you believe him. And you're right. I mean, he's come from MK Dons. He must have been walking out last night and thinking, what the hell is this? Like, what have I let myself in for here? And the thing was, he didn't freeze at all. He just rose to it, and he had a brilliant game. And Tom Rogic, daft question, but does Tom Rogic even get back in the team for the weekend against Motherwell? I mean, these are the decisions that Ange now has to make, you, and it's great from a Celtic point of view to have decisions like that.
I mean, he's clearly a manager that picks players based on how they're playing, on their form, which kind of explains how Anthony Ralston became a bit of a mainstay the first half of the season. So honestly, I don't see him changing that midfield unless he really has to. It was just so fluid. It was so creative. Between O'Reilly and Hatate, they just have so many ideas on how to get past the defence. And
they're different as well, which I like. They're really different players.
Mm-hmm. And we talked a lot in the first half of the season about, there are all these questions about Ange in terms of how do we break down a low block? How do we go up against teams that are going to be stuffy and going to put men behind the ball and that kind of thing? You get the creativity in the likes of Hatate and O'Reilly, and that becomes less of a problem, I think. Just that sheer kind of invention. And it's not just about, what they can do creatively as well. They're also so bought into this culture of pressing and seemingly taking it personally when the other team has the ball. They're constantly harassing, constantly harrying. So, you got two inspired signings there. And I can't speak to the atmosphere that they create in Milton Keynes, but I would imagine that, that was quite different for Matt O'Reilly last night.
Yeah. Josip Juranovic, Scott, if we can chat about him. His best game for me for Celtic last night, I thought he was immense. Yeah. Yogi is agreeing with that too, saying Juranovic is an absolute class act. He is flying under the radar and is one of the best and most consistent players in this Celtic team. He won't be here for long. Talk to me about him as a player, but also the real positive personality he seems to have, because you watch him, he's always smiling.
Look, I think he was the player of the match for me, Josip Juranovic. I mean, obviously the plaudits will go to Hatate himself, but and he was up and down, not just with Kent, but even his covering at times. He was just everywhere for me. I thought it was a world-class performance from Juranovic, and even the one in the second half he brings down, from the sky, on the edge of his own box. He's just calmness personified. And I just thought it was just a flawless performance from himself. I guess you could say that about a lot, though, about a lot of the team itself and how they played. But yeah, I just think, he's finally found, he's a right back, isn't he? He's not a left back, he's a right back. And I think it's unfortunate for Tony Ralston, but, Juranovic has got that cemented now. And Taylor, I mean, again, we're going to probably go through the whole 11 here, aren't we? But Taylor was phenomenal as well, an unbelievable performance. So, and I think when watching the game last night, it really did emphasise that how hard the fullbacks work. They are the most important cogs to the wheel for Celtic, and how Ange plays, and how they're in, they're out, they're in, they're out, they're overlapping, they're up, they're down. And you have to be super fit now to play for Celtic. And I think we talk about squad. I think it's great now for Ange that he can have the ability not to change everyone, but to change certain personnel in certain positions as well. Because we still seen late on the game Abada holding his leg. I think it was Taylor had cramp as well.
And as I say, Juranovic, his personality, I think, is huge as well. He seems like a real presence in that dressing room, arguably, filling the gap left by Michael Lustig, both on and off the pitch a couple of years ago. I think players like that don't necessarily, arrive at the club as Celtic fans. They sign for the club and then they almost fall in love with the club. I think they're really important to have, and Beaton, I'd say, is a big personality in that dressing room. And even though Juranovic has only been here for a matter of months, it seems like he's very much a huge personality. And talking of big personalities, Ange. Now, we've only got one quote from Ange last night, but it is an absolute belter. It's the one people have probably seen from his BBC Radio Scotland interview. Ange says, "We're upholding the values of this football club, not just in terms of winning, but the way we play our football. I want them to be proud of us. I hope they're proud on the journey home tonight. I'm sure they will enjoy tonight. I don't know how work will go tomorrow," very badly, for most of them. "As I said to the players, we had 60,000 in tonight, and I'm sure a lot of them walked in with some problems in their life. For this 95 minutes, we made them forget that and feel good. And that's something special." Has anyone got something in their eye? Because that's a pretty class quote from Ange, Euan.
I don't know how many times we need to say this, but the guy gets it. He just absolutely gets it. And at a really fundamental level too, because he's right. Beyond the repercussions of this particular match of the league table, you do have 60,000 folk going in who just want to kind of leave real life at the door for a wee bit and put all their energy and all their passion and emotion into what they're watching. And I think we forget that a lot. We forget that as a sport, I think, how integral this is, to so many lives. And that might sound a little bit corny, but it's true. And Ange absolutely understands that. He understands the culture of the football club. He understands what it means to people. And he understands that all this has a wider context, and it is about sending people happy to work and sending folk happy on their way home. And yeah, just utterly gets it. I can't say enough about the guy. I just think he's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, agreed. Scott, are you an Oasis fan?
Not a big one, but I know it was rocking with, you got to roll with it at the end.
Brilliant. A lot of people on Twitter pointing out that this was one of the tunes associated with the 97-98 season, when we, of course, stopped 10 in a row. Mm-hmm. Possibly a nice wee nod to Wim Jansen last night, which was great. But those scenes, Scott, I mean, those are scenes that are going to stick with me forever, like folk belting out, not one, not two, but all three choruses of that song. It was just amazing. Inject it. Yeah,
it was like the night games that can't be compared, I think. I mean, whenever there's an Old Firm game at night, it just seems to bring a different edge to it. I'd been involved in a couple of special ones. I was lucky enough to play in a couple of good ones. And, it just brings an unbelievable edge to it on the evening at Celtic Park, and particularly when you get over the line. And like I said, just the hunger and the desire is there from everyone right now. And you can see the passion just coming through everyone and how much it meant to everyone. And look, Ange is great with his words, and he's got such a special aura about him as an individual. And I hear from certain people within the walls at Celtic Park that it's not just on the outside, some of those speeches, but the real special ones come from the inside the changing room before the games. Be amazing to get a doc, wouldn't it? Be amazing to get one of those / Amazon Prime or whatever docs at Celtic Park, wouldn't it? To see exactly what goes on there. But I'm sure there would have been some special words said, particularly before the game.
Yeah, I think we had Ryan McGowan on recently, and he said, he's good pals with Tom Rogic, that they've done quite a few big team talks, and I think they would have done a big one last night based on the way Celtic came out. Scott, how long will Ange give the players to enjoy last night before looking ahead to Motherwell at the weekend?
None. He's relentless. None whatsoever. Be straight in, get your recovery done, and we go again. Nothing's done. You know that from his presses already. That's the way he lives his life. One day to the next, I've got something else to prove. So he'll be making sure players get the kick up the backside and go, don't enjoy this too much. There's still a lot of work to be done between now and the end of the season, so let's get on with it.
You've, I dare say, had big midweek results, and maybe at the weekend had to go to, without patronising Motherwell. Yeah, but Motherwell's actually a decent place to go. They're usually, quite good games, and they're going really well this season, 4th in the league. But with all due respect, it's not the same, atmosphere and, everything going with it as there was last night. How do you deal with that as a player, going from the highs of Wednesday night with all that noise to maybe a little bit quieter?
I think in this instance, there won't be an issue or a problem with it because you are on such a high. The confidence will be huge from playing. It's a domestic game you've just come from. You've played your rivals, and I think it's just right. Let's go out there and let's go and annihilate this lot as well. And I think it will be that case. And the beauty of it is at Fir Park now, the pitch is fantastic. So Celtic get to play the proper football. There's no more spray painting the pitch to make it look green. It's proper green. They do a good job there. My old club. So. Look, I still think it'll be a tough game. It's never easy going there. But with the way Celtic played and players that are coming back, I can't see them not winning this game and piling the pressure on Rangers, particularly. And I think that's a poignant point as well that, they play first. So, Ange will be drumming that into the players that this is a chance to get a psychological edge. We've talked about it on this show prior to now that you're always watching your rivals, particularly if you were the second one to play, you're hoping they slip up. And when they don't, you know the pressure's really, really on to get that result. So Celtic will be hoping to do that come the weekend. Really
tasty Super Sunday on Sunday, funnily enough. We've got, I think, us at 1:30 and then Rangers Hearts at 4:00. So Scottish football going all out. We'll have Tom Rogic back for this. Maida will be, fully back and able to start the game. Suddenly, Euan, we're looking a lot stronger.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting seeing if anything changes from being on top. We've had to sort of, I don't want to say grind out because it sounds derogatory, but I don't mean it in a derogatory sense. We've had to grind out really, really important results in the lead up to last night. Late winners, really resolute defensive performances, and it's going to be really interesting to see if anything changes. Will the mentality be different? Will the players be a bit more expressive because we are at the top of the table now? It's going to be fascinating, and there's a certain kind of poetry in this as well in the fact that we've got Motherwell and Aberdeen coming up because in the lead up to last night and in the lead up to getting to the top of the table, those were two really massive away games. Managed to win them both, and that really set Celtic off on a positive course. Definitely got momentum behind Ange, and definitely proved a lot of doubters wrong. So the fact that we're kind of not going full circle as such, but going to Motherwell next and then to Aberdeen, if we can navigate these places again and get 3 points, it's just more good signs along the road. So, and it's going to be fascinating to see how these games are approached because now we're there to be hunted as opposed to doing the hunting, and whether that has an impact tactically or in terms of the freedom the players feel, it's going to be really, really exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Scott, our next 6 games, just finally, Motherwell away, Aberdeen away, Dundee home, Hibs away, St Mirren home, and then the toughest of the lot, Livingston away. That is, 6 games, 4 away there. Fir Park, Pittodrie, Easter Road, Tony Macaroni. That's tough.
Yep, it really is. This is the biggest testing point for Celtic now. I think if they come away in this period with all 6 games with victories, then I think really, really good place to go and finish the job off. When you say 4 away games, they are probably 4 the most toughest places, more or less, you're going to go. Pittodrie, Easter Road, already just won at Tynecastle. So obviously still have to go to Ibrox there after this, but it sets you up great for going there. If you can get through this with maximum points, you're getting there by that point, I think.
It's exciting, isn't it? It's so exciting, and it's nice to be top of the league again. Scott, when did you set your alarm for this morning, and what time is it now?
It was 5:30 in the morning, so it's now 10:30 at night. So I'll be going to bed soon, but it's I had a little dip during the day, mate. Not gonna lie, but we managed to get through that.
You kept that one quiet earlier when you were slagging me off for not getting much sleep. So it's been great to chat, guys. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come with Celtic. A massive victory last night. We're going to leave you with some of the best images, photographs from last night's game. So we'll speak to you soon.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean, and I bring it to the mad light, ain't got time to kill, I got time to